Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Daughter Dearest podcast. I'm Simone Canego.
And I'm Olivia Canego.
And for those of you who are watching our video, you see that we're actually in person today. Our podcast is a mother-daughter podcast that has authentic conversations about things that we're thinking about. Maybe sometimes people are thinking about these things, but they don't really want to talk about them. Mm-hmm. Today, I think it's something that everybody thinks about. So, today we're going to be talking about memories and nostalgia.
Yeah, we just went on a trip or came back from a trip to Universal. That's not why I'm home. I'm home, unfortunately, for a root canal, maybe, most likely. But growing up, I remember Universal trips more. I'm sure you remember Disney more, but we had annual passes as Florida residents. I feel like everyone at some point has an annual pass to one of the thousands of theme parks in the state. I mean, there's not actually, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Florida is based on tourism, and one of the big parts of tourism in Florida is it's theme parks.
And as annual residents, you really do get, or Florida residents, you get really great deals on those annual passes. I mean, a ticket to Disney these days is what, like $200, and I think you could get the Florida one like to go whenever you. Disney has a weird reservation system now for like $400, so.
It's maybe more than that, but
the Universals is more reasonable for them. But so just diving right in, I remember this trip was very like nostalgia producing for me, but kind of in a negative way. I went on my first roller coaster for the first time. No, not because of you. I went on my first roller coaster for the first time, probably since the pandemic, since pre-pandemic. We went to Disney, but we didn't do any rides that one time. And I got off and I was like, oh my God, I am so old. Like, it affected every single sense in my body. I was so disoriented getting off. I was like shaky. And I finally understood what you guys and my grandparents had been talking about for years. Like, yeah, once you're older, you can't get on roller coasters. I was like, no, like, what do you mean? You just sit still? No, you feel it.
Okay, let me remind you, this girl is 20 years old, so.
Okay, my body is like that of a 40-year-old. Let's be so real.
Okay, all right, again, I mean, as you get older, like, they remember the rides of, oh, this is so exciting, this is so fun, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to do this again. I hope I don't vomit, and this is going to be really painful. Will my back be able to handle this?
Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, there's no seating areas in this hour-long line.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I definitely
stand forever.
Felt the waiting time this time. I feel like as a kid, you were looking so forward to the ride that once you got on the ride, you would forget how long you waited. But now on this trip, I was like, we waited an hour for a 2-second ride.
Yeah, I think that becomes more apparent as you get older. You're like, okay, that ride was literally less than 3 minutes, and we just stood there for an hour for that.
Yeah.
And was it that good? No. I mean, we actually should do a podcast on like rating the rides, because we have a lot to say about that.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so let's go back to like memories and nostalgia. So do you have an earliest memory?
So we were talking about this the other day. I have a ton of memories, but like, I can't like pinpoint timeline wise when they're ahead. I think my earliest, although, how old was I when we went to Italy? When I got super sick.
First time you were 3.
Okay, so then I would say that was my first memory. I remember. So I had what, rotavirus?
Yeah, you had rotavirus
right before we went to Italy, and I remember my dad walking into the room, in the hospital room, with a bottle of V8, and I don't know why that has stuck with me throughout the years. I also remember I had a speech impediment.
Not for you to drink.
No, yes, for me to drink.
For you to drink
V8. Yeah,
because I know what V8 is, but it's tomato juice. You were going to drink that at 3 years old?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't remember that.
I just remember it being.
Obviously, my memory is not so good.
Okay, first of all, they make V8s that aren't just tomato juice.
Oh, that's right. They had
flavors.
That's right. They had the fruit.
Yeah,
ones.
whatever.
Okay.
I also, where was I going with that thought? Well, that's what happens when you get old. It just freaking blanks. Your memories go out the window.
Got anything?
Man, that was sad.
Okay, just you wait.
Okay, yeah.
That's at 20. Just you
I'm
wait.
hoping. Maybe something else will trigger that thought.
Yeah.
What's
about going to Italy?
No, I don't really remember the trip that much. I just remember that specific scene of him.
Yeah.
It's like clips. It's like individual shots from a movie is what plays in my head.
It's interesting because I was really trying to, I think a lot of people have like their specific first memory. I do not have that.
I don't either.
I do have like clips. I have the same kind of thing where I remember like things from my childhood. Like I remember the time we caught snakes and my mom is completely terrified of snakes. And I remember running up to her window. I was probably in kindergarten carrying a snake to show her. Like I was so proud that I caught this snake. And she like, the look on her face was, I cannot believe you did this to me. She closes her window. She had this big old silver Cadillac. And I got in so much trouble for, bringing the snake. But I have memories like that and memories of, we had a flood when I was in Buffalo. And I remember probably maybe around the same time of the streets being flooded and we had our inflatable boat that we used to take in the little lake next to us. And so I remember there was this wooden plank that was in the lake and not plank, but more like a big board, like a piece of plywood. And one of the girls went to jump on it and she jumped on it. A fish came flying out of the water.
Oh my God. I did not expect that to happen. That's
so like
crazy.
It's funny how like these bits and pieces kind of stick in your head.
Yeah.
A lot of people have like a very specific first memory. I just have like chunks, like, oh, this happened and this happened. So, but I can't say like at 3, do I remember anything?
No,
I don't. Like I think it was around 5 when when I process stuff. But I have to say in general, my memory kind of sucks.
Well, we both had head injuries and I think that has definitely affected my memory. And like, the chronic ADHD and not actually paying attention to things. But I think the head, like you were at one point, like very fluent in Hebrew.
I don't want to say very fluent,
but I read more than I can.
I can't even remember my teachers. I remember Mr. Pachalski from middle school. He was my math teacher in middle school, but I can't tell you any of my teachers from elementary school. And when I was in 9th grade, I fell off a horse. I was jumping and fell off the horse. Wasn't wearing a helmet at the time. It wasn't a requirement at the time.
Oh, I didn't know
that. Oh yeah, no, it was not part of it. Like even the horse shows, you didn't have to wear it. You wore a helmet for pretty. So you wore a helmet without the strap and stuff. They didn't have.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I forget like the time period you grew up. Like I forget that safety regulation is such a new thing still.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'll add on to that in a second. But yeah, so like I fell off the horse. My head ricocheted off the ground. I don't remember any of this. And I was told that nobody walked up to me because they thought I was dead.
Oh my God.
And then they said all of a sudden I got up, got back on the horse and finished jumping and then went to cool my horse out and then said, I have no idea where I am. I don't know what I'm doing here. And the next thing I remember was waking up and because my mom came and got me. And I remember waking up on the couch watching Head of the Class. That's what I remember.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and I really think I knocked a lot of crap out of my head that day.
I think I was in a car accident my sophomore year of high school, and I don't know how I hit my head. Don't remember that part at all. Whether that was like trauma or like actually memory loss, but there's just a lot of things that like my friends make my high school friends, they make inside jokes to me, and sometimes I just like pretend to laugh along because I truly do not remember them happening.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. So when she hit her head, it cracked the windshield. Like you could see where her head hit. So yeah, I mean, these things definitely affect you. And for me, I feel like my memory it's not just the long-term memories. I feel like I have short-term memories. Now it might be part of the fact because I have really bad insomnia that might add to the,
not real and fake or like,
well, no, like just like not remembering.
Yeah, because you have to sleep to process or whatever.
And I watched that
movie. What's that movie with Adam Sandler?
It's like a made-up movie, so I don't know.
No, it's a real movie with Drew Barrymore, and like she forgets her memories all the time.
Oh, 51st Dates.
Yeah, and that's why I
don't have that kind of.
Well, no, but I'm not implying that. I just remember from that movie when you sleep, your memories are stored or whatever, and that's why sleep is so important.
Yeah, and my sleep sucks, and so I think that's part of my, memory issues. But it's actually really interesting because I was, we were looking at like statistics about nostalgia and how like, you think back about things that happened in the past and, there's a lot of things like when I look back at my childhood, there's things that I remember very fondly. Like we live in Sarasota now, but when I was a kid, we lived in Buffalo, and we used to come to Sarasota every winter. And my parents owned a place on Siesta Key. We used it 2 weeks out of the year. They rented it the rest of the year. And those 2 weeks were like a really special time for our family. And like, so things I remember about that, I have a very strong connection with the smell of Coppertone.
That's really weird.
Well, it's because my mom wore Coppertone. She's got very fair skin, and she wore Coppertone everywhere she went.
So do you think it has like a different smell? That reminds me of smells though. Going back to like Disney, that's what we did growing up. The smell of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, it's a very distinct like chlorine water scent, but that smell, I could like recognize it anywhere.
Well, and I said when we were in Universal, when you get off the Men in Black ride, I kind of feel like the building has to be like moldy because when you walk through the shop, you can smell this really strong, musty smell. And I don't think they infuse it with a musty smell. I really think that there's something rotting in there.
Yeah, probably, honestly. Like, it doesn't fit with the theme of the ride that it's moldy.
As soon as I walked in there, it was like, oh, I remember this smell. This totally, I have this association with Men in Black.
I think smells are so important for memory. It's definitely like, I think a lot of the times when I remember something, it has to be like a very specific circumstance, whether that's like a taste of food or like, well, a taste, a smell, or just like being in that exact setting. I feel like a lot of my memories are deja vu, I guess. But besides that, I don't know. I remember things in bits of, and when I focus really hard, like recently my friends and I had a conversation about what we think our first memories are. And the more I focused and was into that conversation, the more memories I remembered, I guess.
Yeah. And it's funny, my mom was over for dinner tonight, and she was talking about, we said that we're doing our episode tonight about memories and nostalgia. And right before I told her we were doing that, she's like, oh my gosh, when I look at the girls, I just remember when they were so little and all the things that we used to do together. And, it just really brings back, these feelings that kind of satisfy you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the times. I mean, I would say sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to remember that anymore. But
it's interesting with that sense of nostalgia as well. So my boyfriend is from Alaska, and we went up to visit his town. He no longer lives there. And one of the first things he said to me is, I remember it being so much better than it actually is. And I think even at Universal, like I remember those rides being so much better than they actually are. And
no offense, Universal, we still like you.
Okay, I worked for them. I still love the company. Like I'm not dissing on you, but it's more of the fact that like we put this rose-colored lens on all of these past memories, and maybe they were great when we were kids, but now it's like, oh my gosh, like this is just a little rinky-dink town. And this is just like a ride that's made for children, and I'm no longer a child.
Yeah. Well, the funniest part was I was like, when we were going to the pool today, and I said, there's a couple of pools. Why don't we go to the one with the water slide? Because you guys love the water slide. And they were like, okay, we don't need to ride the water slide anymore, Mom. We're grown up.
That was like,
but that's one of the things again, still being a mom, like those are the things I think about, like what's going to be fun for the kids. A water slide. Okay. Yeah. They're not riding the water slide. Like, I mean, maybe they would if I made them, but
it wouldn't be my first choice, I guess.
Right. I mean, they want to sit by the pool and tan and relax and read their book. And
it's funny. Do you think you'll ever stop being a mom in that mindset then?
No, I think it's really hard. I think that like the way I think about things is first, like for my kids, and it drives them crazy. Like even to the point where I was wearing some bracelets, and I do this with you all the time. I was wearing some bracelets, and Millie said to me, oh, can I try on your bracelets? And as soon as I handed them to her, I said, oh, you can have them. And she said, no, I don't want them. I was just seeing what they look like. And I do that to you with food and everything.
Always the last bite. I don't know why. I'm like, I think it's like a very kind thing that you do, but you always offer me the last bite of food, even if you want it.
Yeah. So going back to the question, that I think that it's very hard to get out of that mom state.
Even though we found that statistic about how much time you spend with your parents after you're 18.
This is a crazy thing. So, and again, I don't know who this person is, but I've
seen it circulating around the internet as well. I don't know how true like the number is.
Yeah. But it says, you probably never thought about this, but around 90% of the time that you will have spent with your parents was done from the ages of 0 to 18. Like, that's kind of scary to me. So basically, I mean, obviously between 0 and 18, you're with your kids every single day. Yeah. And then they go off to college and they come home for breaks. And then they really grown up and they have a spouse or they have a partner or they're however it is. And they see you once or twice a year.
And our family is a little bit different. Like both of my grandparents lived in the same city as us growing up. So it's weird. I was thinking about this recently, like, oh, I wonder if my kids are gonna have to do like vacations to see their grandparents. Cause I never had to do that. Like I would just call grandma and be like, can I sleep over tonight? Like I'm bored. And then I would just go to her house. It wasn't like a whole big thing.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, like you see your mom a lot more than I feel like the average person does. And I see my parents a lot more because I don't know. I just go home a lot, or you guys come in.
Yeah.
I think I see you guys at least once a month. Yeah. If more than that, sometimes more, sometimes less, but around that.
But I mean, that's not always true. And then, I mean, looking at my mom with my sister. So, I mean, she goes there every winter for a couple of weeks. My sister lives in Switzerland, and then they usually come here once a year. So maybe 3 weeks out of the year, she'll see my sister, where, I mean, I see her every week. So it's different because we live in the same town. But majority of people, when they grow up, they don't live in the same town as their parents, not in the United States. I'm generalizing for the United States. We're talking other countries. They definitely have a different life. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing that I only have 10% of my time left with you.
I feel like ours is a little bit different. I feel like we've just started, honestly. Like at this point, I'm like, well, maybe I should just move back to Sarasota. Like it'd be nice here. Not yet. I'm not ready for that yet. Need to explore the world a little bit more first.
Yeah. But when we talk about like the whole nostalgia thing, which I think is such an interesting thought process, that 9 out of 10 people admit to thinking fondly about the past, at least occasionally, with 47% saying they do so almost always or quite often. While people get slightly more likely to do it as they get older, more millennials say they reminisce about the past almost always than older age groups do.
Oh, that's curious.
Yeah, right? I mean, break that down.
I feel like I'm breaking that down as I stare at my old Raggedy Ann dolls. I was like, oh, you kept those? That's a little bit. I always thought those were haunted too.
Well, they might be, but
not these ones. These ones are like the new brand. So. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there is like that nostalgia thing. So like, I'm one of those moms who I don't keep everything.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like don't even paint yourself as the mom that keeps everything. She has boxes, and I feel like every mom has boxes, but they're very well organized and almost, I mean, okay, they're pretty organized. Yes. But not everything is kept. I mean, you guys.
No, I secretly throw away the really crappy stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
They'll make like really shitty artwork. I'm like, yeah, I'm not keeping
that.
No,
I completely get it though, because on the other hand, her mom keeps absolutely everything. And like, I am kind of the same way where I'm a hoarder for nostalgia. Like I'll keep random, just like trinkets, I guess, or like pieces of paper from events. And then my friend is a chronic cleaner. So she'll like come into my room and clean it. And she's like, why do you have this? I'm like, I don't know. Like I just ended up there and I can't get rid of it now. Yeah. But it's like grasping on to the past still, even though for me, a lot of the times when I experience things, I'm like, oh, this is the worst that's ever happened. And then it's because when I think back to past events, I never remember how bad they truly were. So even if it was like, we're at, like, I'm just using Universal again. We're at Universal and it's 100 degrees outside and like we're waiting in line for 4 hours and I haven't had any water. But I look back at that and I'm like, oh, that was such a great day. Like it was such a great bonding experience for our family. I'm so glad we did that.
And it goes both ways, because I will tell you, sometimes we've been on trips and we've had like the most amazing trip. And then the last day we go to get ice cream and the ice cream shop is closed. And guess what? Then the trip sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. What they remember is that they didn't get ice cream. And therefore what they remember is that the trip sucked because they didn't get ice cream.
Yeah. But if you got me ice cream on that hot day, I'd been like, oh, that's perfect. Like the day is beautiful.
But it's a really funny thing how that works, where it's like, you know, you're hyper focused on that moment. And sometimes the last thing you do is what you remember. Yeah. And the other stuff before that didn't really happen.
Especially with the little kids. I remember seeing something about that a couple of years ago where a mom was like, just make sure the last day of your vacation is the best day, because that's what the kids will talk about.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes that's hard. Like, you know, you have an amazing vacation and the last day, like something didn't go the way you thought it was going to go. And therefore that's what everybody remembers. And it's like, no, the vacation was amazing.
Yeah. But I feel like with the millennial thing, at least, I don't know what my generation thinks of. I feel like we're too young to really be looking back on the past right now. But I think it is, to an extent, a rose-colored glass view. And I think for the older generations, it may come down to like the increases in innovation within society that just make things. We were talking about this at dinner. Like, why would you look back and remember college fondly when you had to go through an encyclopedia to find information for your paper? Like, that must have been a pain in the ass.
But that's
like,
all we knew. So
exactly. But like now it's like, oh my gosh, like that was so like, I can't believe we did that.
But it was still like, I remember registering for my first year at University of Florida. So I went to Auburn my first year of college. I don't remember how I registered for classes, but I remember at the University of Florida, I stood in line for like 6 hours,
which is crazy,
and I still didn't get the classes that I wanted.
Which is, yeah, because right now it's
she has someone register for her.
Okay, sometimes I do. My dean and I, my dean and I are close, and usually he'll. And now it's like, okay, all you have to do is make sure that you're on time. And sometimes the server crashes, but usually you can register within 5 minutes. And then my dean is pretty chill. So I'll be like, oh, Father Van, I didn't get into this class. Will you add me to it? And be like, done.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that didn't happen for me. I stood in line for hours, and these were huge classes. So you have like, I don't know, 300 to 500 people in your class.
What does it matter what an extra person is?
Well, I mean, they have their rules, right?
I know.
I would stand in line for hours and wouldn't get it.
What did you do? Did you just have backups?
They would tell me what else is available, and I'd be like, fine, I guess I'll take that.
And then how did they write all that down? Like, how did they systemize it?
It was all handwritten.
That is terrible.
Right? Well, it's not terrible.
How many secrets of the world do you think have gone missing because of the lack of like internet and writing things down on a computer?
A lot of secrets of the world, but also things that people didn't want other people to know. That went missing too, which is probably great for them.
Yeah, like great for them.
You can't do anything without the whole world knowing.
There's no chance. There's no chance. You can't.
So I think that, I mean, the good and bad of it, but one of the other things I was reading about today is nostalgia marketing, which you're in marketing, a huge thing, like,
actually, it's funny that you bring that up. That is like the biggest ploy, I would say, within the advertising and marketing industry right now, is because everyone like looks, I mean, we are living in like the craziest era right now. Like we went from like crazy politics to like huge global warming changes to the pandemic alone. Like you could just look at that and be like, why wouldn't you want to look back to the past as this beautiful golden era of time? And people like, we just rely on that. Advertisers are like, where like they're reverting sometimes to their old logos to try to bring that sense back, although like some brands do the modern logos, which I think are very ugly. And then a lot of the things right now are re-releasing products, and I think like do you remember Dunkaroos?
Yes.
Yeah, they re-released Dunkaroos.
Yeah.
Because people were just like, oh, bring them back, and they can, like, that's going to make huge money, and they're relying solely on nostalgia for that, not like it's a new innovation or like they're targeting the same people they were before.
Yeah, and I mean, think about like Nintendo. Okay.
Yep.
Think about the Beetle
and all of the new movies that are the quote unquote new movies and TV shows that are actually just like remix, or they like the TV shows now, especially like the fact is there's like an iCarly, but like with them older now, it's the same cast.
Yeah,
that's a huge thing.
It is. And I read something about the Lion King, and don't quote me on the numbers, but when the Lion King was re-released, it was like $161 million on its re-release. I mean, like, yes, they updated the animation. Okay, we watched the Lion King many times. So
no. Oh, you're talking about not the You're talking about just when they like redid it.
Yeah. So it's funny because when your dad and I were dating, I really wanted to see the Lion King, and so he was like, should we borrow someone's kid to go see the movie? Is it going to be creepy if we go see it by ourselves? That's
actually so funny.
But we still did go see it by ourselves. But it's funny because obviously they updated, I don't know what you say, updated animation, whatever they did.
They just and it's the
same. Yeah, it's the same movie, but it made a fortune at the box office because it was so nostalgic. It was like something that triggers these warm feelings in your body where you're like, I absolutely want to go see it.
For a lot of people, for people that had like very stable and like nurturing childhoods, like you return to that because being an adult is crazy. There is no clear path on what to do. And when you're a kid, there's you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to school, you try to do your best, and then you go home and then you eat dinner. And for at least for people in very nurturing households,
yes, I mean, that's an overgeneralization,
yes, But to some extent, like that's what people are going back to. They're looking for the best parts of their childhood, or just like looking for what they think or perceive as the best parts of their lives.
Yeah, and so again, looking at statistics, I thought that was an interesting one. A majority of people, 55%, would choose to return to the past if it were possible to time travel, while only 28% would go to the future. I mean, we like what we like, right? We like the known.
Ooh,
it's very,
that's curious.
It's
I don't know
right?
what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to go back to a time? Because if you went back to a time, I mean, think about Back to the Future. I mean, think about
like how far
this.
back would you go if you're going back for like, you know, like as someone that heavily relies on very recent modern medicine, like in the last like 5 years, and B is a woman, I wouldn't want to go back like that far.
I would want to go back a little far as a woman.
What do you mean?
Well,
I mean, yeah, but like there's like there's like
today.
a time period, there's a range. Like I'd want to be able to still open a credit card. So like before the 1980s, probably not.
But would you want to be part of the movement to make the change? You know, I mean, I think. Oh my God.
Back to Zoom.
Sorry, we had a little issue there. We're on her sister's phone, and we didn't. Here, you fix it.
Yeah.
We didn't put on the do not disturb because we had a moment there. So sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I would go back to a time where I could be part of the movement, right?
That'd be interesting.
I mean,
I think there's pros and cons to that. I don't think I'd want to go to the future though. I mean, my money there is going to be freaking worthless. I understand wanting to go back to the past, like, oh, you're going to be a billionaire with whatever money you have now. But I mean, I guess it's like, yeah, going in the future is uncertainty. And that's why I guess waking up in the morning is kind of hard because you're uncertain of how your day's going to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I wouldn't want to. I don't know. I think I would do whatever. Would I go to the future? Sure, I would go to the future. I'd be curious to see what would be happening, but maybe I'd be afraid to see it as well. I think fear going to the future is for a lot of people. Like, okay, I have 6 kids. What if all of them are not there when I go to the future?
That really
would kind of be devastating.
Would love to see a psychic, but I'm also so terrified. I mean, not that like I believe psychics, like what if they tell me something that I just like don't want to happen or don't want to hear? So that's why I refuse to do it. My friends are like, just go and do it. Like, you know, you don't have to trust what they say, but what if it's something that I don't want to happen? Like, I get that fear aspect. It's like, I would rather kind of just wait and see rather than know now.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny. My mom said something very similar to that. She needs to get a bone density scan and she needs to get some other scan. And she's going to see my sister in October. And she said, I'm going to schedule them for after I get back because if I schedule them for before, then I'm going to be so stressed about it the whole time. I won't be able to have a good time there. Right.
Oh, I kind of get that. Though.
So, you know, people have this fear of you know, they have a fear of the future. They have that uncertainty about the fear of the unknown. Like you're very comfortable going back to what you know. You'd be very comfortable going back to your childhood, right? And then like,
I mean, it was so nurtured and just like so loved that of course I would be comfortable. Right now it's a very like questionable time in my life. I'm about to graduate college. What am I going to do? Like, what is the next? I feel like your 20s are such formative years.
Yeah.
Like, what are the next 10 years of my life going to look like? It's not going to be as stable as it was before.
Yeah. I mean, but that's growth, right? I mean,
growth is scary.
Right. Growth is scary. And if you're not moving forward, you're not growing. If you're not facing your fears, you're not growing. I mean, even at my age, I still face fears on a regular basis, and you just have to move forward because if you don't, then you're kind of stuck. And then I'm like, okay, what am I doing with my life? So I like the idea that I'm still challenging myself in certain ways, but I love to look back at the past and think about like all the cool things that we used to do. And,
you know, I've stopped recently, like doing the, what if I did that? Because, I think that has been such a change in my life, being like, well, everything happens for a reason. And yeah, sure, there's a version of me in another galaxy or universe far, far, far away that's doing a different thing, and good for them. Like, I'm hope their life is as well as mine is going, but there is no point in reminiscing because like whatever hole you're in, like, or whatever holes that I've been in, I've been able to get myself out of, and who knows where I would be if I chose to do things differently.
Yeah. I always like to say it's in the past. Like, once it's done, it's done.
You can't fix it.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to learn from it and move forward. And sometimes that's like the hardest thing to do is to be able to let go.
Especially when it's not a mistake. Like choosing where I went to college. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, what if I did go to the University of Florida? But then the experiences and the friends and the relationships I've gained along the way just wouldn't have been the same, and I wouldn't have been who I am now. And I'm sure maybe that other version of me is equally as good, but who knows? Like,
yeah, and you'll never know.
And
so
you can't think like that, because then you'll just be spending the rest of your day thinking, and that's too much.
Yeah, it's too much to think all day long.
I agree.
But yeah, I think that looking back at the past and thinking, I wish I would have, or I wish I could have, instead of saying in the moment right now,
what can
let
I
me make new memories.
Yeah.
Let me figure out how to move forward, and instead of wishing you could have done something.
But everything happens for a reason to some extent. There are some things in the universe that are like, okay, that random nuisance, like, why did that happen to me? But besides that, like, I think that every major thing that happens in your life, it's everything happens for a reason. It was either like a growth experience or a learning experience or something that gave you an opportunity you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that. A lot of people disagree with me on the everything happens for a reason, but
why? Well, yeah, because there's some bad things. I'm like, well, why did that happen?
Yeah, why did that happen? But I actually think that the reason I have that attitude, and whether it's correct or incorrect, I feel like I have it because you grow from it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think
the reason is that I learned something from that, and maybe it was really shitty at the time, but
all growth is good growth.
Yeah, I mean, in general, yeah, I would say yes. That so all of those moments where I look back and say, ah, I can't believe I did that, or I wish I would have done this. And then I say to myself, like, it's in the past. Like, and I say that to you guys all the time when they're like, oh my God, this went so badly. And I was like, it's in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you learn from it, instead of focusing on, oh, how crappy that moment was?
Yeah. What can I do to fix it in the future? I think that's so important. And that's part of growth, I guess, is like, yeah, this didn't go the way you planned, but hey, how can you fix it?
Yeah. And I mean, that's just life, right?
That is just life.
But it is interesting that majority of people look back on their memories and with a feeling of fondness, right? I mean, that's kind of a really interesting
I definitely sugarcoat my memories. Like I said earlier, I can never remember how bad something was. Like when I was so sick with my initial diagnosis of Crohn's, I don't remember how bad that felt. Like in some aspects, because of the people around me, like I could remember how sick I was. I can look at pictures and look how different I look now. But like that pain, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, we can talk about childbirth for a second here. I mean, you haven't experienced this yet, but give that face. But why do women do it over and over again? If you focused on that moment, oh my gosh, nobody would have a baby.
Yeah.
But it's not that moment. What you remember is, that moment sucks, but you remember, or that time sucks, but you remember when the baby was born, and you remember seeing your baby for the first time, so like those kinds of things, like you're willing to do, even though they sucked in the moment, because what you remember is not that horrible pain. You remember the baby, right?
The outcome.
And that's better. How our minds work, is that it's funny how like you do sugarcoat certain things of your memories, because you're like, why focus on that negative stuff?
It'd be so exhausting to just live with all the negativity all the time, to like remember each individual aspect of the pain and trauma that you experience. And not to say that people don't, but it's a hard existence to live.
Yeah, if you're miserable all the time, it's much easier to be focused on positive thoughts than it is to focus on the negative thoughts. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get yourself out of there.
Yeah, and I think like that is totally valid. And in those circumstances, I don't know. I mean, I think talking to people, I feel like I have a lot of wisdom in life because of you, because you have so many sayings and like attributes like that. But
got lots of sayings.
I think therapy in that aspect is so important. Like,
and I'm going to agree, but I also think that you kind of are the master of your own destiny. Yes. So I've been doing a lot of interviews for my new book, and it's really interesting to hear people, especially when we talk about mental health, that really kind of putting in the work that you know what you're going through, right? And so to be able to put in the work that you need to do, and understanding what you're struggling with, and being able to ask for help when you need it, but also being able to say to yourself, hey, I can work on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist, therapy, not a psychologist, but just understanding that, you know, with anything that we go through in our lives, we have to be able to kind of take a, you know, deep dive and look and say, here, what strategies work for me? Does meditation work? Does, you know, breathing exercises work? What works for you that helps you?
And I mean, even therapy is just a tool. It's not a solution. It's a tool. It's a tool for success. And even like my psychiatrist, I'm on anti-anxiety medication. He's like, this isn't your cure all for anxiety. You still have to be the mastermind of your fate. This pill isn't just going to immediately fix your life. You have to put in the work. There's no easy solution for anything.
No,
there's like, that's why only some people win the lottery. If everyone won the lottery, then like,
God, that would be nice.
Yeah, it would be great, but that's just not how it works. You have to put in work for everything.
Okay, everything's pretty high right now.
I know.
I'd really love to win.
Wouldn't it be so awesome
Powerball or Mega Millions?
$1 million.
Yeah, what would you do with it?
I asked my friends this recently if they would quit their jobs, and a lot of them said they would do something that they wanted to do that like they can't do right now because of the money.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, and Rob and I both said we would keep doing what we do because we love what we do, and we wouldn't leave our house because we love our house, and we really wouldn't change much. I mean, we give more to charity.
Yeah,
we would make sure that there's.
I'm wondering if it would affect the kids more then. Like, I'm thinking about, well, what would I do if you guys won the lottery?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think I would still go and get the secondary degree that I'm looking at getting. Maybe I would apply to more expensive schools, but I don't know if I would choose to go that route. Okay.
I'm killing a mosquito. I got a mosquito.
But yeah, I think I still would do like a very like taxing career. Maybe I would work more normal hours, like 9 to 5, rather than doing like a 9 to 2 a.m.
Yeah. I don't think we would allow you guys to really change your lives that much. We wouldn't say, oh, you have this money and therefore it'd be like, you have this when you retire.
Yeah. And it's just more of like
you still got to work for it. You still got to work.
Yeah. It's more of just like, okay, like you lose your job, you're not absolutely screwed over. Like, you're fine, but you still have to go and get another job.
And and it's funny when you look at stuff like the lottery, how like people start planning their lives. If I win.
Yeah. And it's so fun to do though, because it's just like this alternate reality. It goes back to you're sugarcoating your memories. You're believing what you want to believe. I'm planning my future as if I'm winning $900 million.
Yeah. So again, going back to my mom, when she was here, not today, but last week, she was saying, I won $6, you know, for my ticket. And I was like, so you spent 10 and you won 6. So you actually lost 4. And she's like, well, that's a crappy way of looking at it. And I was like, well, that's real.
Yeah.
And it's funny how like in her mind, she won $6, right? And it's like, okay, but you spent 10 for it. So no, you didn't.
Yeah.
But it's just the way the brain works, right? And you know, it's funny talking to her about her memories. And I mean, she has different childhood memories. I don't like, there's certain things that she's very nostalgic about, but she had a tough childhood.
Yeah. I mean, I think she has a great memory. I don't know if I've ever seen her be nostalgic for stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
she's nostalgic for you guys. Like,
I think, yes, of course.
Yeah, like for all the time, because when they were little, she used to watch them all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we would go to grandma's house like every Friday night for school. We would go to Shabbat services Friday night. We would stay for, what do they call that afterwards? With all the desserts.
I'm blanking.
Like, I'm not. Yeah. Well, you know, most synagogues they do it where you get desserts after or meals, which is, you know, the incentive for going when you're 6 years old, because who actually wants to sit through an hour and a half of Hebrew? So we would do that, and then we'd go to grandma's house. We'd sleep over, and this is actually another memory I've had. She has this weird like rug holder, I guess. It's like this wooden, it looks like a saddle holder, honestly. She used to keep it upstairs, and she put it, regardless of how old I was when I was sleeping over, like I remember sleeping over as like a 15, 16-year-old, and she would still put it up there in case we fell down the stairs.
Yeah, she got to block the stairs.
Yes, but the way we would know that she was up in the morning, and she was early bird, so she was always up before us, was it would be moved slightly to the side.
Yeah.
And then like that's like such fond memories I have of just like going over to her house and like she'd always, not to say that you would never make breakfast, but grandma always made breakfast.
She made serious breakfast.
Yeah.
She made skinny pancakes.
She would make biscuits too. That was always my favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
But she was always, I guess I have great memories.
She loves to take care.
Then that's still what she loves. Yeah.
Yeah. She wants to, I say I'm a fixer. She's a feeder.
Yeah. I mean, she's not even just in that aspect. Like she loves to come over and do laundry. And that's like, oh my God, what do you mean by that? But she loves to take care of people. Yeah. And if that's what she can do in the moment to help out, that's what she's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is, I mean, even for me looking back at my childhood, I remember she was a physician. She worked full time and she still cooked breakfast every morning. She still cooked dinner every night. Like she made our clothes. So like I look back at all these things and all these funny things that I remember, I look back at it and think like those were really cool things. So I am really nostalgic about my childhood.
And I'm glad that maybe if she wasn't nostalgic about hers, she has something to at least be nostalgic about now.
Oh yeah, I think definitely with you guys. Not that she wasn't nostalgic about my sister and I growing up, but
it's different when you're grandparents because you can give them back in the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean you can fill them full of sugar.
It's like being a babysitter. It's like
you're like, well, babysitter, you're getting paid, so you're going to follow the rules. But a grandparent, they do not follow the rules ever, right? As I'm going to try to be a really good rule follower whenever I'm a grandparent because
to an extent, like I want you to like still spoil my kids. But if I saw a terrible Reddit story today, and this is why I'm bringing this up, of a grandmother ignoring their granddaughter's coconut allergy and putting coconut oil in her hair to the extent that she actually passed away. Like,
don't tell me that.
So I mean, obviously I would never expect you to do that in any aspect, but like, I want my kids to like go over to your house and have it be like a special treat, not a chore to go over to grandma's.
Yeah. But I also do want to follow the rules because I think actually my mom was really good. My mother-in-law, she was a different story. She would, and still love her, but she, we had like certain food rules, especially with Noah, because he has a lot of sensory issues and he's a very picky eater. And so we're like, he can't just eat cookies. Okay?
And he can't because it's like, that's one of the only things he would eat. But if you only eat cookies, all your teeth are going to fall out. Like that's just how it works.
Right. And so, she didn't really like follow our rules. And that was really hard.
It's like, it's important. And I think that it's just more of having rules that are like only for grandma's house. Like,
I mean, I would go over there and there was like crayon marks on the walls. I was like, wait, she let you draw on the walls? Like you got to be real still. Like, okay, it's okay to spoil the grandkids, but
but it's your walls. Like if they draw on your walls, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. When then they come home and go to someone else's
and I'll blame you.
And draw on their walls. Actually, when we were walking through Universal, Millie was asking to play the carnival games. And I was like, okay, when you were little, we used to play them all the time. But now that you're 15, you do not need to play a carnival game to win a crappy little stuffed animal we're going to put in the trash. I was like, we're not doing it. And she was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to tell my children that they don't get to play carnival games because my mother never let me play carnival games. And I was like, okay, yes, I did. You got to play carnival games all the time, just not when you were 15. Like there's a difference there.
I completely agree.
I was like, there goes nostalgia out the window. Right? Like,
well, that's Millie for you.
Yeah, I know. Always something. But I think like when we look back at our past, like I have, and even from you guys, we were talking in the car, there was a lullaby that I learned.
I don't remember that at all, by the way.
The Nightingale?
No.
I'm not going to sing it for you.
Okay, it's fine.
But I mean, I used to sing it to you all of the time.
I'm sure you did.
All of you guys. And I had my rocking chair with my blue denim rocking chair. Yep.
For me too?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Whatever. You didn't bring it to this house, did you?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's why I don't remember. This is like, I grew up in this house, but like where I lived, technically I lived in a house before this. I was 2, 3 when we moved, but I only have memories of living here.
Yeah, well,
it makes sense. Like I was
3, so when we moved here.
I do. I mean, I don't remember you guys tickling my back. I think that's just something that has stayed with me. But like, it's definitely like a conditioning thing now because if you like, that's one of the ways. Like, if I'm really anxious, like, I can fall asleep if someone's rubbing my back. Or honestly, if you just like rub my back now, like there's a good chance I'll just fall asleep because that's how you guys used to put me to sleep.
Yeah, and that like it's definitely a calming thing too. But again, piece of nostalgia, right? Like
but it's a piece that is like carried over.
Yeah.
But
it's funny looking back at past, like even for me as I talk about with my parents and stuff, like things that I think back about to my childhood, but even just thinking back to when you guys were little, like all of the cool trips that we did. And they'll say, oh, well, I don't remember doing that. And I said, well, we didn't take that trip for you. We took that trip for us.
Yeah. And you guys
right?
just came along because it'd be more expensive to find you a babysitter for 2
Well,
weeks.
no, I mean, no, that's not what I mean. I mean that we took that trip for us. We wanted the memories with you that we would remember. You might not remember them, but we remember all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really like we wanted to make those memories. And, you know, you look back at pictures. I mean, sometimes I think we look back at pictures and those are the things that we think we remember, but it's the stories that we've been told that we actually remember. But for us, that was about bringing you to all those trips. And that's why you're achieving your final continent in December, because we took you everywhere.
I think I remember going to all of the continents.
You think?
Ethiopia is, it's give or take. But besides that, I would say, yeah, Australia was 6th grade. And like, yeah, that should be a time where you should have solid memories. I do have some, but once again, like the head injury is like it wipes a lot out. But besides that, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly because I've been to most of them recently. So
yeah, this girl, all continents, and you know, before she's 21.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this today, actually.
Or by she's 20. By the time
she's 21. No, I won't be. I'll be 21 when I go to Antarctica.
I said, okay, right after she turns 21.
Okay, wait, yeah, I guess I just don't understand that phrasing.
Sorry.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just a funny comment today in the pool of dad. Like we were talking about this, like you wanting to go back to me wanting to be like, oh, I wish I was 15 again. And my dad being like, well, I just wish you were you now. I was like, yeah, it's a great place to be, except when you have to think about how much I'm going to have to do to maintain my current lifestyle. Like, I'm never going to be able to have like a typical 20. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will like eventually do like the Europe travel where you stay in hostels, but it's like,
yeah, you got
I just
really spoiled.
Yeah, I'm used to, I guess I'm used to different standards.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we took you all over the
but
place.
I'm so grateful. It's made me such a, I don't know, an adaptable human being.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're very patient. I think that you've you know, you're able to handle adversity really well most times. But yeah, I think I mean, this has nothing to do with today's podcast, but travel, I think it makes you being able to see the world differently. I think is so important.
I think like such a great piece of advice there is like, don't wait to start living in that aspect. Like, don't wait till you're retired to travel. Don't wait until your kids are old enough to have memories to travel. Because by the time you get there, who knows what life's going to throw at you.
Yeah. And I do hear that all the time where parents will say, oh, my kids won't remember it. But you know what? The parents will. And that's, for me, that's how we always approached our travel, is that we want these memories for ourselves of spending this time with our children. So, and even the funny memories or even the ridiculous memories of how hard it was to travel sometimes. But still, it was, you know, memories that I, you know, wouldn't want to change. So, yeah.
I'm grateful.
Okay. You don't have your calendar with you.
I know, I have no good quotes today. Yeah. I can make something up, but I'm not so creative at the moment. I'm, you know, fighting off a root canal and a sinus infection.
Oh, yeah. She's a mess, let me tell you.
Dude, I know.
Yeah.
If I actually have to get a root canal, I found out that I'm not allowed to get on a plane for 5 days. So that's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah. She's supposed to travel home tomorrow night after she sees the endodontist. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I shouldn't even like getting on the plane here with all the sinus things was like, felt bad for the girls on the plane sitting next to me because I was like tons of tissues.
Well, now that you're on another set of antibiotics, hopefully we'll take care of it.
I know. So, getting old sucks.
Getting old sucks. Yeah. Spoken from the mouth of a babe. At 20 years,
but like
20 years
you look
old.
at my teeth, you're gonna be like, there's no way that she's 20 years old.
Well, it's because of Crohn's. I mean, we just talked about that.
Yeah,
that,
my body is aging.
Her body is aging. No, she just has bad teeth.
Yeah.
What do you want? It's not because she's
another 20-year-old that's had a root canal. I floss daily, by the way.
Okay, I don't know another 20-year-old that's had a root canal.
I mean, I don't know if I know anybody that's had a root canal. I'm sure
I haven't had a root canal, and I'm 51. Huh.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we don't have anything to leave you with other than thank you so much for joining us, and remember that look back on your memories with such fondness, because nostalgia is amazing. When you look back at what you've done in your life and you think about all those cool moments from your childhood, and sometimes the crappy moments, but those crappy moments make you who you are. Yeah. So embrace them.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
All righty. righty, we gotcha.